Welcome back, everybody. It's Primetime Action Sports. We're here again. We brought our sports analytic lead, Ryan Pierce, back on the set to help us break down the second half of the NBA. Ryan, how are you doing? How's life been treating you?
Doing great, man. Ready to give some takes on the second half of the NBA season.
Well, I know obviously we always have a traditional, our first half, second half, playoffs and finals, etc. So, kind of going into it, we're kind of reflecting back on some our old predictions from last time you came on. We'll be looking to the second half outlook, and then we'll be, looking at bold predictions come playoff time. So, let's break down the first half. You got a couple teams out west that are, surprise teams. You got the Jazz, you got the Suns, then you got out east, you got the Bucks are kind of like faltering. You got the Miami Heat that's not there yet, but Jimmy Butler's kind of coming into his own. But what was your first, initial thought of the first half of the NBA season?
Yeah, I think it's been a weird season from the injuries and the COVID. I think you look out west and you look at Anthony Davis missing, pretty much that second quarter of the season going into the All-Star break.
Mm-hmm.
The Lakers hit a little bit of a skid. I think they lost 4 in a row. And then they kind of recovered once Dennis Schroeder came back. So I think when you think about the first half of the season, it's all about those injuries and COVID. I think you also look the Blazers. CJ McCollum missed a good chunk of that. Somehow they've stayed in the standings, looking really good behind Damian Lillard and Carmelo Anthony. And then, you just called it out, but the Miami Heat, coming off that finals appearance from last year, they've been hit really hard by injuries and COVID, and they're outside of that 8 seed right now looking in.
Yeah, exactly. And good fun of this is kind of looking at, like I said, the pretenders and contenders, whether out west or out east. So if there's a pretender out in the west, or I guess in the entire NBA, who would it be?
If we're talking about pretenders and contenders, I think for me, you look at pretenders, I think the Milwaukee Bucks have gotten considerably worse from last year. You look at their team, it's, generally the same. They swapped out the point guards. They got Drew Holiday in there, and, I don't think they've played up to the standards of what, you would have thought once they got Drew Holiday on board. I think Giannis is, having a Giannis season. He is top 5 MVP voting right now, but I think, Milwaukee Bucks are still going to have those same problems once they get into the playoffs. Giannis is not a shooter, right? He's not a guy that's going to be able to create his own shot shooting wise, right? He can get to the basket and he can, hit those close layups and those dunks. But in terms of, Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, are they going to be able to carry them when it comes down to crunch time in the playoffs? So that's my, pretender going into the second half.
I think my biggest pretender, and this might be a little biased, I'm going to the West. I'm calling out the 27-9 Jazz, sitting atop the first place of Western Conference. This kind of has a little flashbacks from a couple years ago when we saw the Atlanta Hawks, when LeBron went back to Cleveland. They were sitting on top of the 1 seed for a long time, and then they get into the playoffs, maybe kind of win, the first round, go to the second round, then bounce out. The Corver and Horford and those kind of
they remind me of a classic regular season team that's really good in the regular season, going to the playoffs with that 1 seed, and they may or may not falter once they get there, right? They don't have a superstar, right? They have Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley, and Rudy Gobert, right? Those guys are all top 25 players in the league, for sure. Maybe Mike Conley's outside the top 25, but Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell for sure. But when they go into a playoff series, they may not have even the best 2 players on the court, right? If they're playing the Clippers, they're playing the Lakers, they have 3 and 4 in terms of top superstar players on the court. So I think you really got to take that into account when you look at the postseason series.
Oh, you definitely on a hand. Shout out to your boy Jordan Clarkson, our old player.
Sixth man of the year.
But you mentioned the playoff experience, and I vouch this just whenever it comes playoff time in any sport. Inexperience always is outweighed by experience. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
And when you get someone like you said, like even the Clippers, you get someone that's matched with the Clippers. Paul George has been there playoff P. Leonard's been there plenty of time.
Yep.
And you just look at the other teams that are positioned right now. You got the Lakers that have been there, year in, year out. You got the Spurs that can make a run. Great coach. So that's just where I'm at. I'm labeling them as a pretender.
No, I like it.
I'm not saying they won't come away with the number 1 seed and make playoffs. They're not going to falter that hard, but I'm labeling them as my pretender. But when I'm going to go to my contender, I got to shout out the 76ers because a lot of people doubted them after last season's debacle and the season before that against the Raptors. You just look at what they've been doing. Embiid's been playing MVP type of ball. You got Simmons playing. I believe he's the favorite right now to win MVP.
MVP favorite.
Yeah, Defensive Player of the Year.
Oh, Ben Simmons.
Yeah, and MVP right now is Embiid as well. And the East is just. The East is always the East. It's a couple easier teams with schedules, but
generally worse than the West.
Exactly. Yeah. And you got Embiid averaging 30 points, 11, basically 12 rebounds. So that's something I got to kind of just tip my hat off to 76ers because the East is a lot better than it's been in recent years. but it's still the East. So we'll see how it goes with the second half. But I'm labeling the 76ers a true contender this season.
Yeah, I think for my contender for, going into the second half of the season is I look at the Portland Trailblazers. They did what they did in the first half of the season behind mostly Damian Lillard and, Carmelo Anthony coming off the bench a lot. CJ McCollum has been hurt. I think once they get CJ McCollum back, they're going to really be a force to be reckoned with in the West. I think, Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum have both been there in the postseason together. They have playoff experience. They've been together on that team for a while. And they also have the wily veteran and Carmelo Anthony there to kind of steer them forward. So, I think about contenders. I want to stay away from that Lakers pick because, we're Lakers fans. And, looking at the West side of things, I really think the Portland Trailblazers have a good chance of making some noise in the Western Conference playoffs, maybe getting to the Western Conference Finals.
And you look at Melo just hitting stride like he did last season, just coming into this season, just killing it.
Yeah.
Stepping up when McCollum's out. And, there's rumors that LaMarcus Aldridge could go back there, reunite. We'll have to see. We don't know what the old vets got left in the tank, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So I mentioned, we're reviewing what we've done over the years. And we're going to look back at our old predictions because we're going to make new predictions or maybe alter them, change them, or stick with them. So last time I had you on, Ryan, our old predictions, your MVP was Luka.
Yep.
Are you changing that? Are you still sticking with it?
Yeah, so I think at the beginning of the season, I said MVP favorite, Luka, with, LeBron as a dark horse. I think Luka is having a good season, but the Dallas Mavericks are not playing good enough basketball for him to be able to be considered in that top 3 of the MVP conversation. Mm-hmm. I still think that, LeBron is going to end up being the MVP of the season. Mm-hmm. I think Embiid's definitely an MVP frontrunner right now. But then you look at, is he going to play enough games to be considered the MVP, right? I think he's already missed a good amount of games in the first half of the season, just, typical Joel Embiid things, kind of knick-knack injuries and rest. Mm-hmm. And he's one injury away from missing a week or more and then kind of pushing himself out of that MVP playoff, the MVP race. So, I think in that scenario, LeBron just came out today and said there's no rest going on for him in the second half. He's full speed ahead. I think LeBron really wants it. I think he wants to put in the work and the time to be able to, play every game, put up his numbers that he gets, and if the Lakers end up a top 2 seed, it's gonna be really hard to keep LeBron out of that MVP chair.
Yeah, it really is. I think every year he's up there at top 3 no matter what.
Yeah.
Maybe beside the first season he came to LA, barring the injury.
Yeah.
Okay, next you had Dark Horse, you had the Trailblazer. I'm assuming you're sticking with them.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Trailblazers as my Dark Horse. I think, I saw it from the beginning of the season. I think you just got to go back and look at what Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum can do as a tandem. Probably, the best backcourt in the NBA, if not, top 3 backcourt in the NBA. And I think those two guys playing together, all kind of with the stipulation that CJ McCollum comes back from his injury, as he was before. So, I'm going to stick with that Trailblazers dark horse pick, and yeah.
I think when McCollum comes back from that foot injury, they're going to be definitely a force. So I do have to agree with you on that. And then finally, you had your breakout player. You're going to D-Books. You said, quote unquote, he's going to average probably 30 points per game. I looked up. He's nearly close to that. He's around 26.
Cool. I mean, he made the All-Star game. He was an alternate. He was like that #1 snub that everyone got mad about. And, of course, once they ruled 80 out, they put Booker into the actual All-Star game. You know what I mean? So he did get an All-Star appearance, and like you said, he's almost averaging 30. He's averaging about 26. I'll stick with that breakout player. Again, I'm not really in terms of talking about breakout players. Like, he's been a good player in previous seasons, but I'll go ahead and stick with that as my breakout player.
I had MVP LeBron. I'm sticking with that. Dark Horse Suns. I'm sticking with that. Breakout player SGA. Huge shout.
That was a good pick.
I think with Chris Paul kind of mentoring him that first season, that really helped him kind of expand his role. Now he's a clear-cut #1.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That's good. But now we're going to our second half outlooks. And obviously Embiid's a favorite for MVP, but you're picking Bron. I'm picking Bron too. But now we're kind of going to do some extra things. I'm doing Rookie of the Year. I think I'm just going to let you kind of go off on this one because we both know who's the favorite right now. Go ahead.
I'm grinning ear to ear here because I've been calling this since his days in Turkey. LaMelo Ball. He has burst onto the scene. Everyone has seen, what I've been feeling, from when he was playing in Turkey. I bought his jersey all the way through when he was playing in Australia, and, he went top 3 in the draft. I think that he kind of eased into it in terms of he was coming off the bench to start the season, but I think ever since he got put in that starting lineup, he's been spectacular. You know, making really cool, flashy plays, passing wise, dunks, 3-point attempts, pulling up from everywhere. I think, you know, he's really introduced himself as the Rookie of the Year favorite. I also saw a stat that he's the first rookie to ever lead the rookie class in like points, rebounds, assists, and steals at the All-Star break. He's going to keep starting, they came out and said, so no reason to believe that he's going to let off the gas anytime soon. I also want to call out the Hornets if we're talking about, you know, second half takes. The Hornets are my favorite team to watch outside of the Lakers. You know, if you throw on any given night when they're playing, they have great chemistry. LaMelo Ball has great chemistry with those guys like Washington and Monk, and, you know, they're a really exciting team to watch, and they kind of leave it all out in the court. So, you know, if you're talking about teams that are fun to watch, if you ever, you know, bored on a weekday night, definitely throw on a Hornets game.
Yeah, you know, you got the fact that Scary Terry's out there again.
Scary Terry, too.
After all these years of Michael Jordan kind of developing this team since he's, you know, took ownership.
Yeah. It's a fun little team.
Yeah. And, you know, a quick note on LaMelo, too. There was something, he came out saying that the Warriors said they were going to pick him with their second.
Jalen Rose said that LaMelo told him that.
Oh, so
yeah,
we'll see.
We'll see what Jalen Rose is. We'll try to stir up some controversy, but
yeah, what could have been? But
yeah, what could have been if they would have taken him over Wiseman? Very interesting.
Oh yeah. Finals preview, Ryan. You had Nets versus Lakers.
That was a good pick, and I'm going to stick with that one. You know, we didn't even talk about the Nets.
That was before Harden.
We didn't even talk about the Nets. You know, if we're talking about, you know, first half things that happened, James Harden basically forcing his way out of Houston and then getting traded to the Nets and playing. I feel like if Harden would have been on the Nets from day one, he'd be, you know, top 3 in the MVP race right now. He's been stellar, and Kyrie's getting traded to the Nets and playing. I feel like if Harden would have been on the Nets from day one, he'd be, you know, top 3 in the MVP race right now. He's been stellar, and Kyrie's kind of given him over those point guard duties, and the numbers he's averaging, and even since KD's been out with some injuries and some health and safety protocols, Kyrie and James Harden have actually fit together a lot better than I thought. So, you know, they're getting Blake Griffin as well, got bought out, joining the Nets. You know, I think the Nets are the clear-cut favorite in the East.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. I picked Lakers-Celtics. I am going to switch that up because the Celtics aren't really playing how I expect them to.
What's wrong with the Celtics?
Who knows? I mean, they got to figure it out right now. I think just the fact that they are pretty damn young.
Yeah.
You know, they're...
Jaylen Brown's been better than he was in the previous years, so he looks like he has the makings to be a superstar. So him and Tatum are those building pieces that you want to build around. I think they just need to kind of figure out the rest of the roster.
Exactly. So I'm going to switch to Celtics. I do want to take the Nets because why would you not? Obviously, they are the favorite. But I'm going to take the MVP, runner-up, and his squad, Joel Embiid, and the 76ers compete with the Lakers. I think that's got something in them, something in the works, you know, back in the day with AI, maybe a little rematch, something like that. And I mean, it's going to be good because when you got, you know, players playing at MVP levels, they match up against the finals. You know, that's just bound to if they do.
And I mean, Ben Simmons' defense, you know, like you said, he's probably the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year. We'll see what he does in the series against LeBron if that comes to that. You know, in the finals, that'd be a fun matchup with him guarding LeBron and AD versus Joel Embiid. I think that would be a really fun, you know, superstar teammates versus superstar teammates matchup. So we'll see. I think you're right, though. I think Sixers and Nets are pretty much the clear-cut favorites in the East. I think the West is a little bit more convoluted, where you got the Lakers, you got, you know, of course, the Jazz are number 1 seed, you got the Suns, you got the Clippers, you got the Blazers, all kind of, you know, vying for those top 5 seeds. So
yeah, it's going to be very interesting how both parties play out, and it's crazy how much things can change in just a year. You know, I know the Lakers had the little amount of rest ever off season, but you know,
71 days or something like that.
Something like that, as Kuzma was saying.
Yeah.
And I mean, you look at the East, and like the Bucks were just a clear-cut favorite for years.
Yeah.
And now they're just kind of slipping away, losing that groove, and you know, you gotta, when you have time to win, you gotta win now, because you never know when that window of opportunity will close.
Yep.
All right, Ryan, this is where it gets fun, because you're allowed to have one bold prediction in the second half. Do you have one?
Why don't you go first?
All right. So I'm taking it back to the West. I'm saying the Utah Jazz. Remember how I said they remind me of Atlanta Hawks? I'm saying they get bounced out in the first round by the 8th seed. I had Warriors written down at the 8th seed, but I don't know what's going to happen. They might sink their way to the 7th. I could see that. Maybe the Spurs drop to 8th. I don't know who it's going to be, but whoever it is, they're going to lose in a 7-game series to the 8th seed. Sorry, Jazz and Quinn Snyder. I'm sorry. That bad juju for the COVID breakout, it's going to come around to you eventually.
Yep. Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you there. I feel similarly about the Jazz. I feel like, they are kind of pretenders, like you said at the beginning of the show, and we'll see kind of what happens once they get in those playoffs, because there are some West teams that are good, in those 6 through 8 seeds, so they get matched up with a kind of scrappy, hungry team. There's no reason that they can't lose a first-round series. My bold take is going to be that the Charlotte Hornets win a playoff series. So going back to my Charlotte Hornets, and you look at the East, they could end up being, the 6th seed, and they're playing someone like, the Bucks or something like that. Wow. And maybe they come out and they kind of shock the world and win a first-round playoff series. So I'm personally tuning in for that. I'm personally invested because LaMelo Ball is one of my favorite players in the NBA, and he has been even before he got there. So, I'm going to call out my Hornets and kind of say, I think they might end up winning a playoff series.
I love it, Ryan. Every time we come on, you always throw those hot takes, all that kind of stuff. So it's been a pleasure. We'll be wrapping stuff up because the NBA's tipped off. Lakers coming in on Friday. We're going to see how everything kind of goes. They got the rumors Marc Gasol might be traded, or it's not planned out according how they have. So, is there anyone you want to shout out? You have anything else you want to say before we cancel out until the finals?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it back to the Lakers, and I know you will hate on this, but I just want to call out my boy Kyle Kuzma, doing it on the defensive end, doing it on the rebounding. He's finding ways to contribute. Yeah. Keep your head up, Kyle. Lakers fans are hard ones to please, but I want you to keep on keeping on, and you're going to be a good contributor for us come this postseason.
Yeah, he was averaging double-doubles kind of towards that back end when Davis was out. So yeah. I'm going to shout out the owner, Jeannie Buss. It's International Women's Month. Why not shout out one of the greatest owners of Lakers history? So, she's got that blood, that killer Buss blood. So she's been helping us, and what she's been able to do over the couple of years, or the years she's been, managing everything, bringing everyone together. Everyone loves her.
Yeah, I love Jeannie.
Yeah, so we all love her. So shout out to her. Shout out to all those women out there. My fiance, my mother, my grandparents, my grandmas, all that. Your mother, sister, all that. Oh, my sister too. Sorry, Mac. But anyway, shout out to everyone out there. It's gonna be very interesting to see how the second half plays out. I'm looking forward to see the finals and the 8 teams in both respective conference, how it's gonna come out.
Yeah. Looking forward to revisiting this right before the postseason too. We'll see how this all plays out.
It's going to be interesting. It's a couple months away. So until then, stay tuned. We out.